My name is J.B. Robillard, and I'm coming to you from Dunrobin Shores, about 45 minutes upriver from Ottawa. And I'd like to speak to you about our daughter Madeline, who passed away July 20th, 2020, at the age of 19, roughly 6 weeks away from her 20th birthday. Our daughter developed an addiction to cocaine, and a significant addiction to cocaine and Xanax in her last semester of high school, and which would have been spring of 2018. And it wasn't until early 2019 that we were able to confirm her addiction. We knew something was going on. We suspected it was drug use, strongly suspected it, but you know, she was in continual denial, and it really wasn't until January 2019 when she came out and just told us, "Hey, I'm struggling with drugs. You know, I'm struggling with cocaine use, and I'm struggling with Xanax." And so immediately we sought help for her, and so we visited a rehabilitation center just outside of Ottawa, one that's very reputable. And the one thing that struck us, and we're almost immediately told this, was that the choice of rehabilitation, of going forth with treatment, was ultimately Madeline's, and that compassionate intervention would not work. And so, and even though at the time it was very obvious that Madeline's judgment was greatly impaired, we would later find out that she was being predated upon. We didn't understand how vulnerable she was at the time, nor did the counselors for that matter. But again, they were insistent that that the choice of rehabilitation was ultimately Madeline's. Even though they explained to us through the counseling that they provided, family counseling to my wife and I, that Madeline's everyday judgment was greatly impaired by her drug use, and that we had to show a heightened level of patience when dealing with Madeline because of her drug use and how it impaired her everyday judgment. But then again, her choice, the choice of rehabilitation, came down to her. And so our point being was, you know, we believed that a period of sobriety, which could have been acquired through compassionate intervention, that would have allowed Madeline to just essentially get off the drugs, you know, and with a clear head, finally make the right decision as far as how to go forth with a healthier lifestyle. And but that was never achieved. And so we continued with this center during Madeline's drug use, right to the end, of course, unfortunately. And so we would meet with them on weekly meetings, actually just telephone calls over the phone. And it wasn't until the very end when it became very, very obvious that Madeline's lifestyle was incredibly dangerous, you know. And it was at that point when they proposed to us that we have Madeline formed. And I wasn't aware of that option. I asked them to explain it to us, and essentially it was involuntary care. It was, you know, we were going to go to the courts through a process. We were going to get essentially Madeline almost institutionalized because she was a danger to herself and to others. And I remember expressing a level of frustration at that point when it was proposed to us. And what I explained to them was, you know, this is something we discussed early on, and you had informed us that decision was Madeline's, that ultimately it wouldn't work, you know, that Madeline had to be the decision maker when it came to her rehabilitation. Now you're saying that she's gotten to a point where we have to step in. Why did we have to wait to that point? And I knew there and then, and I said it out loud. I said to them, I said, it's probably too late, and sure enough, before we even went through with the court motion of having Madeline hospitalized involuntarily, she passed. And so, in our opinion, had we gone forth with a compassionate intervention, where we would have given Madeline the opportunity to acquire some form of sobriety, where she could have made just a better choice as far as her welfare was concerned, I believe that could have very well have saved her. Thank you for listening.